At Hawaii Reporter, I've talked to you before about what we do, but just for people who aren't familiar, 10 years ago we started an online newspaper called HawaiiReporter.com, and it was to give a different perspective than the traditional media was giving, and also to do investigative news that wasn't being done. And you know, we cover mobsters, union officials, sex offenders, and politicians. Those are some of our key areas. But one story I want to tell you real quick, it's just a good example of media bias, or the way media can twist. And it was actually done on us. And we do have this happen a lot where media is covering what we're covering, and then they're kind of twisting, they can kind of twist what happens. But there's a man, who's here from, anybody here from San Francisco? Okay, sorry about that. Just kidding. You have a man that's running for mayor, and his name is Leland Yee. And so he was from Hawaii, actually went to school in Hawaii. And so when he was there in college, he was majoring in psychology. And anyway, he basically went into a store on the Big Island and stole a bottle of suntan lotion. And he put it in his pocket, and he put his shirt over there, and then he walked outside, and his wife was waiting outside. And it's only an $8 bottle of suntan lotion, but the point is, he got caught. He lied about it. He said he was just going to show his wife the bottle of suntan lotion to see if that's what they had at home. And then he got arrested, and then he left, and he never showed up at court. He had to post $50 bail. It was a misdemeanor crime because it was only an $8 bottle of suntan lotion. But the point is that he didn't show up at court. And so eventually, you know, they dismissed the case because it was a small amount. But now he's running for San Francisco mayor, and there's been articles about him getting caught in the prostitution districts and things like that. And so we wrote a story that basically covered the fact that he skipped bail, and you know now and what happened, and tried to get a response from him about it. And there's a Hawaii tie because he's originally spent a lot of time in Hawaii. And so anyway, the San Francisco Examiner took our story and basically wrote a story about our story. And they said, well, a newspaper in Honolulu said that Leland Yee should not be mayor of San Francisco because he stole a bottle of suntan lotion. Of course, that's not what we said. We didn't have any kind of editorial at all in the article. We just brought up the facts. And so that's just an example of, a very, very small example of how things can get twisted in the media. And that can happen to all of us when we're talking to the media. Just yesterday, I was coming out of the bathroom, and a Bloomberg reporter stopped me. Did anybody else here get interviewed by the Bloomberg reporter yesterday? Peggy did, okay. She was looking for non-conventional gun owners. And so I wasn't sure what that was. I had to ask her, what does that mean? And she said, you know, people that you wouldn't normally think would own guns. And so I still said, I don't know, I'm not sure what you want. And so she said, well, I want some women. So I said, well, good, there's a lot of women here, so let me help you, because I didn't really want to be interviewed, because I told her I'm a reporter, or I'm an editor, and I'd rather have other people here be interviewed, let me find you some. So I did actually found her at least 4 really amazing women to interview. But it was just funny because, you know, Congressman Walsh said yesterday that sometimes people look at you like you're an exotic zoo animal. And here I am, a journalist who owns a firearm and who's at this convention. You know, it can't be more. She looked at me with complete terror in her eyes. But anyway, so we'll see how that story comes out, right? Right, Vic? Right. Okay, so what do you do if, we don't have much time here, we can't do a whole class on what do you do if you get approached by a journalist like that. We didn't have time yesterday to look up this journalist's name. We know she's from Bloomberg, and that's about all we know about her. So there was no time, it was a spur of the moment thing. But if you do have time to find out about who's interviewing you, you can always Google them, you can go look at where their publication they're from, or what news station they're from. There's all kinds of different reporters, just like there's all kinds of different people in here, there's all kinds of different reporters. There's reporters who just care about how they look on TV, and they want their hair to be perfect, and that's all they care, and they don't really give a rip what you say to them, and they're going to do both sides, and that's it. And then there's the reporters that are out to get you. There's no doubt about it. I've worked with those, and they think you're right-wing nuts, and I'm a right-wing nut, and they just think that, that they should expose you, or they should expose what you believe in. And so there's different kinds of reporters. You can't just assume that you're going to get interviewed by that kind of reporter, but you have to kind of be aware of it. And really, it's going to take, the way you can do that is just by listening. What kind of questions do they ask you, and what direction are they taking the story in? And I know Alan Corin yesterday talked about that in terms of how to handle media, but just, we're not all the devil, so you can just kind of listen to what they're saying. And then there's radio talk show hosts that are conservative. They can get your message out through. I know we do a morning report every morning on conservative talk show about what's happening in our news. Okay, so you have this traditional media to deal with. Yes, everybody knows there's a bias, but what else can you do? Some of the things that we did in Hawaii, which you can do in your community, is that we created this whole amazing media network. I said I don't want to stop until I have the Justice Department after me for becoming a monopoly media in Hawaii. That's my goal. And basically, what we did was we started, we went to the community TV station and we started a weekly talk show, half hour a week. So I have on all different kinds of guests, whether it's Second Amendment or other issues. We have debates. We put that on YouTube. We put it on Vimeo, and then Google picks it up, and that's just on TV. And then we have, that's led to all kinds of other things, for opportunities on PBS and other news covering our TV talk shows. That's just something very small. It doesn't cost any money at all, except for the cost of your tape. Like I said, calling talk shows, doing your own talk show, doing your own internet newspaper. That's what we did. Your community newsletter, blogs. We actually started Wire Reporter before there was the word blog. So we would consider ourselves an online news journal. But you can start a blog, you can start an online newspaper. There are so many reporters out there now that are out of work because of the way the changes are. Alan, that's you back there, I see you. And that actually probably is a good thing, but there's also a problem with that too, because there's a lot of reporters that are freelancing with the big networks now, and what they're trying to do is find the most sensational story they can bring to the network to get it on 60 Minutes or 2020 and get that work. So you also have to do that. I've seen that phenomenon with some of my peers out there working like that. But anyway, there's a lot you can do, and one other thing that is happening that I've mentioned before in prior years is the State Policy Network, which is a group of think tanks all across the country, and also the Franklin Center for Government and Public Integrity have started a network of journalists who are really looking at where the money's going. They look at conservative issues, and they're primarily charged with keeping government accountable. That's their big issue. But you can definitely look up those watchdog.org stories at statehousenewsonline.stories. And if you have stories to submit, they're doing blogger training all around the country if you want to have them come and help you. And you can partner with them, send them things. So there's a million ways to get your news out. You don't have to rely on traditional media or worry as much about the bias anymore. They've lost so much power in these years. This is a great time to get into your own media. I don't know.